Hello everyone, this is my very first YouTube live stream. Last couple weeks I went on Facebook Live and did a little bit of a tutorial on how I learn music rapidly. And I thought I would try a little bit of that on YouTube since I've been trying to grow my channel, but gigs come up and I haven't been able to upload too many new videos lately. So maybe this sort of off-the-cuff real-time thing will be worthwhile. So I thought that in addition to uploading videos of my performances with different groups and other things like that, I would do a little bit of instructional stuff too, in case anybody wants to know that. So if anybody is watching, either live or afterwards, give me a like if you want to see more of this kind of thing. So the main theme of learning music rapidly is what I call chunking or grouping things. In other words, if you have pages full of notes that you need to learn, you could count every note that's on the page and say there's 100 notes on the page. You've got to be responsible for 100 different bits of information and what to do with them. And actually technically more, because it's not just the note, but it's how long it's being held for, the dynamic level, etc., etc. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of information to memorize if you really want to take a piece and commit it to memory. But what you can do is you can group things together in ways that will help them be familiar to you the next time you go to play. So instead, like for instance, this piece is the Great Gate of Kiev from Mussorgsky Pictures at an exhibition. And the opening piece four measures of music, and let's see, 2, 4, so 8, 16, 24, about 32, 30, about 40 different notes just were played, right? But what I can do is I can think of them as the underlying chords. That's like the low-hanging fruit. If you know what chords are and you know how to identify them, that's the first sort of grouping we're going to do. So instead of thinking about G, E flat, another G, and then an E flat, G, B flat, B flat. I'm just thinking E flat major, and what you can do is you can think about the outer notes, because that will tell you what chord inversion or what is the root. Because in this case, this is an E flat chord, but the note G is in the bass. So if I was making a jazz chart or a rock lead sheet or something, I would put E flat / G, because G is the lowest note. Or you could think of it as E flat in first inversion. It all depends on what you've learned so far and what catches in your mind, so that when you come back to it next time, you'll know to go here. Because it's not exactly that simple. There are a lot of notes stacked, so you could think, oh, well, the right hand is playing the root position, and the left hand is doing this particular inverted voicing. But getting a little deeper into it as we go, and the idea is to just do a quick overview to get an understanding of what's happening musically. So I got an E flat chord, my next chord is a B flat / F, so it's second inversion, and then we're in E flat root position, then a C minor, then a B flat chord, and then just a B flat note. So running that back, we've got E flat, B flat, A flat, C minor, B flat. So all told, it's an order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chords. So now we've just immediately reduced the bits of information that we need to know from 40 to 5. I like that, right? So we can go a step further. It may be just as difficult to memorize just any sort of series of chords unless we can put some logic to it. So we're in the key of E flat, so I'm going to call this the 1 chord. And I'm speaking in Roman numerals. More on that later. So this is the 1 chord, capital I. This is the 5 chord, capital V. Then the 1 chord again. And then the 6 chord, lowercase vi, because it's a C minor, and the minor chords we will write out with lowercase. And then B flat, which is the 5 chord. So I've got this little formula of Roman numerals. It's just a series. It's 1, 5, 1, 6, 5. All right. You could get more detailed in it if you want to specify what is the bass note. Is it the root? Is it the name of the chord? Is your lowest note, or is it one of the other chord tones? And that's basically going to tell you whether or not it's a root position chord or if it's inverted. Now, with the Roman numerals, I can see what the progression is. In this case, it's a cadence. Now, the word cadence can mean a few different things, but for our purposes here, it's like a mini chord progression, or some think of a cadence as an ending. But this, I'm just going to think of as this little compact group of chords that does something. And the most basic cadence is the 1 chord, the 5 chord. Because we've got some musical motion. If I just pick any 2 chords at random, it might have some sort of motion, but the 1 chord to the 5 chord and back to the 1 has this really defined and kind of predictable motion. Dun, dun, dun. Now, typically the 5 chord is dominant, meaning it's a 7th chord. In this particular excerpt of music, they're just all major triads or minor triads. But I got 1, 5, 1 is my first group of chords, and then it goes 6, 5. 1, 5, 1, 6, 5. 1, 5, 1 is that basic cadence. So now I've chunked that down to one thing, the basic 1, 5, 1 cadence. And then I got the 6th chord and the 5 chord. So now I've narrowed this down to 3 things I've got to think about. The 1, 5, 1 cadence, and then the 6, 5. Okay, now I may have actually not played exactly the specific notes as they were voiced, but what I just did actually did sound like the tune. That's because I'm sort of just thinking of the chords themselves right now. So the first 4 measures, I've got down to 3 things to think about. And that's pretty much the idea. We can look for patterns. You can look for repetition, look for patterns, look for anything that's going to put a sign in the ground that will help you the next time you come to it, that you'll understand the music, not just be rattling off some notes. Because if you're the reading type and you're just reading the notes, and that's an amazing skill, but what happens if the music is gone? Have you internalized it? Do you own it in your heart yet, in your mind? Because frankly, I've been working on this piece for a long time, on and off, for years, and I don't have it. But I could go up to a piano without the music, and I could kind of play an approximation of it. So I'm getting it, but if I get more into the weeds with this thing, I'll probably be playing slightly different voicings and stuff like that. But I've got the overview, the skeleton of the tune, and that's where we're going with it. So in a sense, it can actually make sense to start maybe analyzing is a little bit of extreme of a word, but yeah, analyze it as you're going along and see what is this music made of, and that will help you internalize it and know it. So let's back up a little bit. In order for me to have simplified this group of 4 measures, I had to have a baseline of knowledge of a few things. Obviously, reading music is the one. But this type of chunking can go beyond reading music. If you're doing music by ear, same idea. You can still map out how the chords are working. Now, but I knew the diatonic chords, which are how to name these things with the appropriate Roman numeral. So I know in the key of E flat, there are 7 chords, 1 for each note of the major scale, and each of those notes has a chord. And those chords I use Roman numerals for. This also can help me if I need to transpose the tune, because if you have that formula in Roman numerals. You can apply it to any key, as long as you know the major scale. I can do in the key of A. 1, 5, 6, 5. Am I playing the exact voicings? No. But what you just heard was the beginning of Great Gate of Kiev. It was just in a different key. So I had a baseline of some theory, right? And that's, some people shudder when they think of music theory, or they don't know what it's for. I use theory as a tool. Some people think that theory is the rules. I think it's the tools. And using the knowledge of chord inversions, chord positions, what the diatonic series is and what a cadence is all helpful things. So if you're watching this and these terms seem a little foreign to you, then you can get in touch with me, because I do private one-on-one lessons over Skype, FaceTime, and Google Hangouts, etc., etc. And we can work on the theoretical aspects, we work on tunes, we work on composition. I have students who work on everything from learning pop songs to developing their own music, using recording software and things like that. So I'm into a lot of things, and I think I'm going to put little lessons like this up on YouTube pretty frequently, I hope. In a couple weeks I'm going to Brazil with Renaissance, one of the bands I play with, and we're also going to be playing in Argentina, so I may or may not be able to post something next week. But I'm going to try, and please send your comments, send your feedback. You can also hear my music at tombrislin.com, and I hope to see you next time.